I'm Laraj.
I'm Lygia.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Lithos. Hail
Hail
Satan. Today we'll be talking about the importance of safety and anonymity within the Satanic community. We don't just use Satanims to appear edgy. There's genuine safety considerations. In particular, this applies to people in already socially marginalized groups. So to kick us off, Laraj has done a series of interviews with Satanists who are part of the LGBTQIA plus community on this topic. Over to you, Laraj.
So the first interview was with Alfie and Asta, who are both members of GOS UK. And the second interview was with Cora, and Cora joint runs a podcast called Satanic in Nature, Sin. And the links to that will be in the episode description. Okay. So I'm here today with a couple of my Satanic siblings, Alfie and Asta. And we're here today to talk about safety, privacy, maybe even anonymity as a Satanist. There's a myriad reasons why Satanists might want to protect their anonymity online. Each of us has our own reasons. Alfie, would you like to tell us about yours?
Well, the main reason I need to protect my anonymity is because I still live with my fairly traditional Christian family. And I can't really afford to move out. So I need to be able to still live with them. And if they knew I was a Satanist, they probably wouldn't be best pleased about it. Especially since I came out as trans a while ago, and it increasingly feels like there's only so many more disappointments that I can face them with before things become difficult.
Understandable, yeah.
Yeah, I had a difficult conversation with my mum a little while after I came out as trans, essentially, and I was still a Christian at the time, where she essentially said to me, well, what should I do if God tells me I shouldn't let you live with us because you're trans? And at the time I just said, well, you should do it then, because I believed that, as a Christian at the time, I believed that God wouldn't do that. And I also sort of believed that she would find it too difficult to actually kick me out of the house. But having had that conversation, I feel like if she did get to a point where she believed that God was telling her that, she would feel like she did have to kick me out of the house. So I want to minimize the risk of that as much as possible.
Yeah, completely understandable. That's a fairly sobering situation. Blimey. What about you, Asta? What's your story?
Yeah, I think mine is, interpersonally, I don't know how people would react. A lot of my friends know, but similar situation of I give family limited information about many elements of my life. Also, someone under the trans umbrella, they're not privy to that information either. So this kind of just sits alongside that. But for me, the anonymous side of it is more pragmatic, in the sense of my job is usually in sectors where you're trying to affect change to improve the position of marginalized people. And there's always that thought in the back of my head about, I know what Satanism is. I know that it aligns very neatly with those causes, and that's why my values sit here. However, I know the media reception of it. I know public perception. And if my relationship to that became connected with the work, and then potentially the rights that those marginalized communities are seeking to defend, that could have a negative impact. Now, and then also in the future, right, it could severely limit career options potentially, or areas where you can ally with people and be beneficial. So for me, it's kind of strategic, even though I am someone who's very inclined to want to tell everyone everything, and feel very like strongly about it. So it's I definitely like disclosed it to colleagues in the past, especially when I was younger and starting work. But I try and be a bit more pragmatic now, try and be a bit sensible with it. But yeah, I kind of wish things were a bit easier, generally.
So it's kind of like, I mean, for me, it's less, very much less intense than either of you. But it seems to me that the common thread is coming out as a Satanist, particularly if there's other factors involved as well, can really both affect your actual living situation and your work situation and just about every aspect of your life. Do you both think that's true?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, most of my friends are still Christians, and if they knew that I was a Satanist, some of them would probably be reasonably okay about it, but it would definitely change the vast majority of my relationships, which would be life-changing.
Change as in alter the nature of them, or change as in kind of you would be concerned that it would end them?
For a lot of them, it would probably become untenable as a friendship.
Mm. And is that similar for you as well, Asta?
I think, as I said before, I'm quite luckily socially, because I've always moved in circles where that's just one quirk among many. So I really feel for you, Alfie. That sounds super tough as a situation to be in. But yeah, I think I would have concerns more employability wise. Even if we were to be a protected belief, I do question how that could, if it was Googleable, how that could impact how people might feel about you in future and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, you've only got to look at how so-called protected minorities are already treated. See how that might be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Alfie, do you feel like there's a realistic possibility of your situation improving at any point?
I mean, hopefully at some point in the coming years, I'll be able to move out from my parents' house, and then I'll be able to be a little bit more open. Especially if I've made some more friends that are perhaps more open to this sort of belief system. So yeah, there's hope, but I might have to wait a little while.
Yeah, understandable. Well, you have made friends with a similar belief system. So here we all are. So that's a start.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that either of you two would like to add?
I can't think of how to phrase the question, but to sort of add obviously it sucks generally to not be able to be open and to have to be covert about things. But I'm also interested in even though we have to remain anonymous, why become a Satanist? What's the benefits to doing that, even if you might have to be a little bit sensible and careful and strategic about who you're speaking to about that? I'd just be really interested, Alfie, sort of knowing that this is something that you have to kind of keep to yourself, that is more of a risky thing to engage with. What made you want to do it, and what have been kind of the good parts of having this in your life, even if it's just for you at the moment?
I mean, part of it is just the belief system itself fit with the belief system itself fits with beliefs I already held, and seemed like a good framework to try and improve myself and the way that I see the world and treat other people and treat myself. It also being a former Christian, it's quite liberating to call myself a Satanist. And also the community that it gives was also a large part of why I decided to actually join the Global Order of Satanists. So that's that's mainly why I chose to actually start considering myself a Satanist rather than just an atheist.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it rings really true for me as well. I think, especially when you're in positions where multiple parts of yourself aren't necessarily accepted by the people around you, it's so nice to have access to a community of people who are more open-minded, where you can maybe start to find some of that chosen family. And where also when, things are a bit rough in the rest of the world, you can turn and people are talking about it, they're trying to do things about it, and they're trying to make those communities of care. So yeah, that really rings true to me as well. And I'm very glad to have you as part of the Satanic family.
Thank you.
Yeah, I can only reiterate what Asta just said. It is great for me personally to have this GOS family. So how it must feel for you guys as well is also a great thing. Okay, right. Alfie, is there anything else you'd like to add or ask?
I don't think so, no.
Cool. Okay. So I'm kind of mindful that Alfie's folks might sort of like return at any moment. So thank you both very, very much for being so honest and being so thoughtful. And I really, really, really hope what I think we all hope from this particular episode is that people hear it and realise that even though they might feel alone, they're not alone, and there are communities out there which are accepting of who they are, either as Satanists or not Satanists. And there's people out there. So thank you both very, very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay, thank you.
So I'm here this evening, or this afternoon for her, with Cora from the Sin podcast, which is satanic in nature. They did a really interesting episode about safety a couple of weeks ago, which I thoroughly encourage you to go and download and listen to. So Cora, your episode began with talking about a martial art. So I kind of got the impression that although from what you and your guests were talking about, that although it was literally a good thing to do, it was also a lot about empowerment as well. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of both. It's kind of safety and empowerment, right? I think from a general empowerment standpoint, a lot of femme presenting people like myself tend to have some issues here in the United States, like especially trans femme presenting people. I think it's something like you're 18 times more likely to experience violence or something like that.
So after this interview, Cora did some fact checking, and it turns out the actual statistic is 4 times, not 18 times. But the point still stands, and yeah, so I'm gonna let them continue now.
Based on just being trans and femme here in the United States, if you're femme presenting, obviously that increases it just to begin with, and there is a sense that you're in danger here, and unfortunately that's a real thing. And so the more you're a part of a minority group, the more you're involved in some things like even Satanism. If you're out there openly practicing this, it actually increases the degree to which you want to feel safe as you're doing so. And so a lot of us look to be able to feel empower ourselves to feel safe, right? And so even knowing that we have it as a way of prevention in case something does happen, and enables us to go out there and do and feel good about what we're doing out there.
Yeah, no, that's completely understandable. 18 times more likely. That's pretty shocking.
Yeah, for trans people, it's pretty high.
Good grief. So, yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I did kind of get the impression that it was kind of like a thing that was actually necessary as well as a self-empowerment thing, which is
Yep.
quite concerning.
Yeah, it's concerning, but it's one of those where it kind of comes with the territory, unfortunately, as it is in this current climate in the United States. I think the violence is actually ramped up. It's getting worse, unfortunately. The political climate here in the United States is kind of getting to be, how do I put it? There's an almost sense that it's okay to be violent.
Yeah.
And it's one particular political side of things that seems to be doing it more than others. And so when you're out, for instance, even at Pride and everything, that's been places where I've even felt unsafe as I was doing that. You know, being in the Pride Parade here in Arizona, which is generally the area where I live. I've been out there at the Pride Parade in Phoenix, Arizona, and as a person who's walking through that parade and actually participating in it, seeing at the end an entire group of people that are out there protesting you, and it's not just a small group. There's usually a couple hundred sitting there protesting.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, you as an individual. It kind of increases that sense that you're not welcome out there.
That is just. I mean, I speak as a cis male, so what I know about the issue is pretty negligible, but I don't think it's as overt over here as it is in the States. Which is not, of course, to say that it doesn't happen, because obviously it does. And with things like the TAS report coming out recently, which I'm sure you've at least read about, I think it's only going to get worse. So I think something like some form of martial art is probably a very good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, I used to live in the United Kingdom for about a year on the southern coast there in Dorset, actually. I missed my little flat in Poole. But I did feel safer over there, just in general, right? Even from a baseline safety level, I felt safer in the United Kingdom, and no matter where I went. And I traveled all over there while I was visiting and living there. And I think one of the things that I got a sense of was that there's just a sense that people there are more, they don't see that as an option, violence as an option, right? I think,
or at least not the first option,
right? Words always seem to be the first thing that come up, right? And I think that was the big difference for me. They certainly didn't have a problem telling you what they really thought, which was, fun. But in fact, I wasn't even used to that when I moved there, because coming from a Midwestern town, they're almost too nice. They're almost creepy nice. Yeah. And so where I grew up was kind of very different than even where I'm living now. But now that I go back there, now that I'm out, right, this is the big difference. Going back to that same place where everyone was polite and nice is no longer quite the same experience going home to a place which is typically considered overly nice. It's not anymore. Yeah. Right. There's this sense of like people just not wanting to engage with you more than anything in those kinds of places. But here in Arizona, where I live now, living in a large city, I feel more safe in the area that I'm at because I live in a large city. But the moment I leave the large city, it feels very scary.
So you actually feel safer in a large city than you would somewhere rural or semi-rural?
Yes, absolutely.
Gosh,
it tends to be that most people in large cities are more accepting. Yeah. Rather, they may not like it, but they tend to see a lot of people that are more alternative out there. So when it comes to Satanism, when it comes to being queer, were everywhere around here. So they tend to kind of just accept it as a part of living in the location that they do.
Right.
Whereas if I were to go outside of the area that I'm in, and visit a completely small town here in Arizona, like, let's say I went up to this town like Sholo, this few thousand people, very beautiful place. I like to visit there, to go hiking. But when I stop in that town, I very much feel this sense of like, almost people staring. Like I'm not unpassing. I'll put it that way. In general, people don't look too hard, but if I'm with other trans people going to do these things, like just go hiking in the mountains, for instance, then I feel that kind of the lots of eyes on us, lots of sense like we're not welcome in those places, in those small towns.
That's a shame. But you sort of touched on it a couple of minutes ago. I've got a good friend who's a trans man, and he's also gay and also pagan/Wiccan. And he's used the phrase, which I think I've said to you before, which is kind of like the step ladder of awfulness in terms of, which one of those things is worse. And for him, he said that most people didn't really respond at all to the fact that he's gay. Responded a little bit to the fact that he identifies as a trans man, but really, really lost their shit when he said that they were pagan/Wiccan. What is that? Something that you can identify with as a Satanist, or?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Level of awfulness. I think one of the things that I put, I literally use it on my dating profile to filter people out. In fact, that step ladder of awfulness, I just kind of start listing out the different terms, and if people make it through that and then still engage with me, I know they're generally a decent person. But yeah, there's this almost sense that like if I just tell them that I'm trans, or if I tell them that I'm like some kind of other thing that they're not used to, they seem to be more okay with it. But the moment I tell them that I'm a Satanist, most people are like, whoa, what's going on here? They get this instant sense of like backing off and looking at me like I'm weird. I think the thing that's helped me with that is my ability to kind of prep them for it has gotten better. One of the things that I've always thought of is like I've literally read off certain like rules, like for instance the things like the 6 main things that the global order of Satan has, and they'll be like, oh, those are great values, and then you go, well, welcome to Satanism, right? And they don't realize that they've always kind of followed the same rules as that most Satanists do, and they don't quite realize what the real beliefs are. So the trick is always having to break those kind of preconceived notions down. I tend to actually have the worst reaction from people, though, when I tell them that I'm poly, believe it or not. So that's the one that's really weird to me. That
seems like a strange thing to get.
Like I feel very, let's put it this way, when I deal with people and I tell them that I have more than one partner, and weirder yet for them is when they also know that I have kids, right? And even the other stuff, I think that's actually another one that really comes up, is when they seem okay with me doing those things as long as I'm not affecting anybody else. But the moment they realize that I have children, they freak out. Like, oh my goodness, how could you be corrupting these little children in the things that you're doing? And I'm like, do you understand that there's lots of different ways to have a family, right? Like,
honestly, that's just the most ridiculous thing in the world. I mean, what possible difference does it make to parenting? I don't know. People are strange.
People are
So-
very strange.
People, yeah. So the other thing I wanted to ask you about, because again, you discussed this on the podcast. You mentioned Facebook specifically, but I think it applies to lots of, particular social media type environments. What do you think is, or how would you judge the average Satanist knowledge of online safety / privacy / anonymity? Because it can get a pretty technical subject.
Mhm. I think that most Satanists are better than the average human. I would say they're more cognizant of it, mostly because of the fact that they are more aware of themselves a little bit, understanding that their family tends to be more probably looking at them. So I
So
think
you think it might be out of necessity? Excuse me.
Go
So
ahead.
you think
Sorry.
it might be out of necessity? That
Yeah.
they're familiar. Yeah.
I think their understanding of how they feel about that, so they're more understanding of others. I think where people get in trouble is when they're not as tech savvy, when they don't know what an accidental thing that can happen is. They can easily out somebody on accident to a large community, right? By tagging them in something on Facebook, or for even some of my friends that I know growing up know that I'm a Satanist and know how active I am in different communities, and them putting a TikTok of mine on Facebook, for instance,
Yeah.
and me having a very active TikTok presence, where I'm very open about who I am. I don't necessarily want certain people from my hometown to engage with that content, because I just know that they wouldn't accept me, right?
Yes. I do think Facebook is particularly bad for that, because you're kind of expected to use your sort of real name, as it were. And I think it's easy to, like you said, if someone's posting your TikTok feed to their Facebook account, which you're linked to as well, that could get pretty hairy, I would think.
Absolutely. And the settings on Facebook are much harder to set up, right?
yeah.
So on TikTok, I can tell it, like, I don't want any of my contacts suggested. I don't want any of my social media accounts linked to this. So I can easily, set it up so that other people who might normally see my social media accounts don't see them on TikTok. Whereas Facebook doesn't make that very easy. They want you as linked as possible. So they try to make it so that everything, comes into one feed for everyone.
Yeah.
And it almost feels to someone who's not wanting to be out about who they are in certain ways, like for queer people, even not just Satanists, it can be challenging. I think that people really need to be aware of when they're posting something, whether it's direct to a group, for instance. That was one of the things that I think is the most important etiquette in a satanic group around posts. You got to be very careful about, like, are you posting to just that group, or are you posting globally to everyone in your feed, right? And you almost have to check every time you do.
You do, yeah. I mean, it's very easily done. I know I've almost done it a few times. I mean, I am quite, again, I have privilege in that sense that quite a lot of people who know me in real life are fully aware. We do have members in the UK order for which that issue is very, very important. So yeah, maybe it's something that as Satanists we do need to sort of like take a little bit more importantly and disseminate a bit of knowledge about.
Yeah. And one thing we didn't talk about in that is the questions we tend to vet a little bit, even if it's just a small amount, around the people who go into Facebook groups around satanic communities. A lot of times is, like, in order to join the group, you have to fill out the questions, right?
Right.
And that's a great thing to go and do. If you're going to do a group, do it that way. And I think it's also good when you're doing those kinds of things for even a Discord group, right? And that's one of the advantages of a Discord and why I think they work so well for satanic groups is because it's much more private. Like you don't have to worry about what you put on there because you know that the people that are on there are all like you, right? There's no chance that you could accidentally get it to go somewhere else.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there were some really interesting points raised during those interviews. So does anyone want to go first? And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite nice to have someone like Alfie being quite open about their fears of their family, especially with regards to their living situation, like not having finances to like securely put yourself as authentically as you may want to be, is quite frightening for a lot of people. I think a lot of people in the order I would sympathize that. I certainly know I can.
Yes, particularly the part where, you know, at the end you went, well, we're going to have to cut this short because we're aware that your parents might be back at any moment now.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that struck me, I don't know about you guys, but you do kind of feel a sort of sense of responsibility in terms of, you know, the effect that identifying as a Satanist can have on people.
I mean, yeah. I mean, like I can sympathize with a lot of it. I'm jokingly refer to myself as post-Catholic, and growing up, especially my dad was, you know, quite Catholic, if not openly practicing. But a lot of the time, you talk about things that are, you know, are vaguely occult or magic related, and the sort of thing that you have this spectre of deep fear from him, especially, and the idea that if you ever got involved with it, it could be quite dangerous, and he never wanted it near his house. And admittedly, I never thought he would be, you know, serious about it, but he was always talking about if you were to get involved, then you'd be out. So I can get it, and especially if like someone, especially in Alfie's case, it sounds like that his family is a lot more strict about the Christian faith, than having that with a much stronger fear of if you get involved in anything as you are just straight out is quite a difficult environment to be in. I strongly sympathize with him, and like, you know, respect his great courage to just involve himself with these groups anyway. It's very, very, very endearing to hear, and it's very gratifying to have someone in that space who feels comfortable stepping even slightly out to be able to be involved.
Maybe it's really difficult for young people who are still joining or coming out as Satanists. It might be more difficult because they still need to live with their families, and obviously you don't want to hurt your loved ones. And this is something I think we can work on for the future, to learn and to like find out how to communicate basically what this means to us, because the damage has been done to Satanism. You know, not only the well-known Satanic Panic, but before that and through like the whole history of humanity, this has been like the figure of Satan, something evil and bad, and not everybody is looking into it deeper, like to see what it means in a modern society. Like it has moved, and these young people need to find their vocabulary, their words, their strength, and they need to have us as a family as like a, you know, support. So I'm really happy we can work on this. My child is also a part of GOS, so I might use my child to like communicate with an 18-year-old how they would react if I was a mother that is not supporting. So that's just my little point.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Especially like what you said about not, we can't replace the family, but we can be there for people who need it. What did you guys think about what Asta said about the way that, publicly identifying as a Satanist might affect your career?
I can certainly answer to that in terms of I've spent a large part of my working life working in secondary schools in a support capacity, so not a teaching capacity. And it was very important to me since I became a Satanist not to mention this to anyone, because it that coming out, that could just be the kind of headline the Daily Mail's looking for: Satanists work in schools and our kind of thing. But also because a lot of the people in the school were not adults. So it is not my business to talk to them about religion or anything like that. So I did not mention Satanism to, certainly not to any students. I didn't mention Satanism to any, I didn't even mention religion to any students. And any colleagues I worked with, at best, they would have known I'm an atheist. If they'd asked me about religion, I certainly didn't mention Satanism in any way, shape, or form. And I think you can see that in an environment like that, it is really difficult. It would be nice to have it openly acknowledged that it's a thing and it's not dangerous, but I felt very strongly I can't do that. I can't mention it.
Yeah, I think that particular scenario, when you're working in an educational setting, particularly with people under 18, that's probably the best thing to do anyway. I mean, GOS has a kind of like blanket rule that we don't accept members who are under 18 anyway. So I think that has to follow through. It's not our place to sort of like try, we wouldn't want to be thought of as trying to convert people. So I think that's a legitimate concern.
Yes, indeed. I mean, it's beyond the conversion thing and the obvious rule. Yeah, we don't take anyone under 18. It just kind of would be nice if in things like religious studies where they mention all world religions, they just kind of acknowledged that there was such a thing as modern progressive Satanism, and it's not about, eating babies and. But hey ho, that's not likely to happen anytime soon, is it?
I would like to know your opinion about like what the core fear is when the family members who don't know much about what this means to us, or whoever, I don't know, even like just public people, like whoever, you would meet somebody in the street and you would tell them, hey, listen, I'm a Satanist, what do you think about it? So what is the core of the fear we have to come out with this? Like, why is it? Because I'm not sure if it's the same for everyone, or why do we fear so much? And why do people fear us? I would like to know, what do you think?
For me, I'm reasonably open about it, but I'm very aware I've got lots of privilege in that respect. My family are all atheists. I do have some Christian friends, but I don't think they'd be particularly shocked. I do tend to stay as private as I can online, but certainly within my data. I mean, I don't go around shouting it from the rooftops, but I think if one of my friends was to ask me directly, I wouldn't have any particular issue about saying, yeah, I am Satanist. But I think you're right that we all have our own individual reasons and worries about revealing it.
I think there's, I mean, yes, there's various reasons. Certainly, in my case, my parents would never have accepted it. They're not alive anymore, so it's it's a moot point. Most of the people I know outside of GOS do know it, and the reactions kind of like vary from mild sneering like ha 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 ha, you think you're an edgelord kind of thing, to acceptance. There's nothing that bad, but certainly in terms of my immediate family and where we live, I would be worried because we live where there's a lot of very religious people, and if it came out, I might be putting them in danger, because there are some very religious people and they believe the devil is real, and that would put my immediate family, my stepkids, my wife, in danger.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And that kind of ties into the second interview with Cora. I mean, a large part of her Satanism is tied up with her identity as a trans woman. But she made it pretty clear that there was, and maybe it's slightly different because she's in the US, but there were quite obvious, genuine physical dangers that she might be in. If she publicly identified as a Satanist.
I mean, yeah, that's a great point. I don't think got covered by either of the interviews, especially like because those are people who are like at direct risk of it. But for people who aren't necessarily at like direct risk of being outed and being hunted down for it, you've got everyone else around you that can come into the sort of conflict around it. Like especially other people in the order, because there are some of us who like are quite open about it and quite being more comfortable about it, but there are other people in the order who definitely are not. And for those people who are more comfortable, it feels like there's more of an impetus to be a little bit more secretive about it, to not have any blowback, being able to go back onto those weak links in chains and all that.
Yes, indeed. And I think, the kind of fear of Satanism has two different aspects. There's the one which is kind of the traditional Catholic Church, for want of a better word, one of like, oh, you're going to go down the path of evil. You must be saved. The devil is real. He's a danger to you. And then but I regard as more dangerous the kind of people who swallow the whole QAnon bollocks thing about, there's a cabal of Satanists who steal children and harvest them for adrenochrome, and they're Marxists as well, and somehow they're also in with, Soros and all that thing. Those people can get really, really very kind of aggressive, not just in sort of online trolling, but indirectly trying to find where someone lives, trying to target them, and I'll regard that as a sort of bigger danger than, for want of a word, the actual, religious people, the kind of people who just go with the Satanism conspiracy thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you. God, if any of these people realised that we have enough difficulty keeping up with everyday life, let alone tracking who we're supposed to be in league with this week. It's bizarre.
Yes, and the whole thing of being, you're Satanist, but you're also a Marxist and a communist, and there's kind of Jewish money behind you. What do they think? Hell is some kind of hyper kibbutz or something. It just makes no sense. But trying to find sense in what is happening in these conspiracy theories, and I think once people get that far down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theory, yet there's no talking sense to them. There's you can provide evidence. That to me, that kind of conspiracy thing is, the way I feel, is the biggest kind of danger to us.
I feel like conspiracy theories as a web is something that we should probably cover in a future episode, because it's the sort of thing that digging into as the side topic for this is probably something that would lead us down, get us into the weeds. But definitely, like the way you get radicalized by conspiracy theories, the way it drags you in, the way it builds on narratives, and the way it insulates yourself against the rest of the world is quite difficult to try and get out of. And the way it radicalizes you and makes you into sort of a different person who can be significantly more violent is definitely something to worry about as well.
Eddie, is that your way of volunteering to research and do the next episode?
Bollocks. Yes, actually, it's a subject I'm quite interested in. So yes, absolutely, I'm happy to do some research for that. Fuck.
I would also say at this point, obviously, for anyone who's listening who wants a deeper dive into conspiracy theories, specifically as they relate to Satanism, there's the excellent You're Wrong About podcast by Sarah Marshall, and the equally excellent American Hysteria podcast by Chelsea Weber Smith, who have done several in-depth episodes on specifically conspiracy theories, satanic panic stuff. Well worth listening to if you want to do a deeper dive into that.
Absolutely,
yes.
Yeah. And then, like, on that train, if you want to find more podcasts about this sort of thing, you should listen to Knowledge Fight. It's great, about contemporary stochastic terrorist Alex Jones, who believes he's fighting the literal devil. So that'd be worth having a listen to as well if you want to find out more sort of stuff. If you fancy losing your mind.
Sorry, go on. You go.
No, I just like an idea or a thought that came to me now. Maybe this is some people, have this mindset that they think everything that's happening during their lifetime is completely new to this world, which I think like everything has been here at some point. And maybe these people are so fearful of the changes that they see are going to change the whole universe. Like, for example, the, LGBTQ, and that we want them to, everybody to express themselves and be who they want to be. And this is for many people absolutely new. And I think they want to connect it to something, to some devil, to something that is behind this horrible thing in their mind that is absolutely terrifying, because it's not what they knew or what the schedule of their life allows them to see as normal. And like we as a Satanist are a very good scapegoat, yes. And I would like to just think about it and maybe try to change that in the future, because I think we had enough. And I would like to get to a point where more people are at least interested to know who we are, and to know that their belief that this worldwide spread satanic ritual abuse, or whatever the conspiracy behind it, and this shadowy realm of the people who control everything and in secrecy, and that we are meeting and plotting out, like, that's not what we do. That's not what we want to do. And maybe we should start coming out more safely, of course. I'm not saying like tomorrow, but really at least these things like podcast and meeting people, talking to them, making sure they understand, and we are just perfect for this world.
I think what you said there about kind of, one of the things that Cora and I talked about was this kind of like progression of awfulness in other people's minds. So someone who is gay and also trans and also a Satanist, It's weird to me that these things are weird at all, but it's quite striking that the thing that most worries people as soon as you say that you're a Satanist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the. I mean, it's not just satanic panics. It's the kind of the fear of the unknown or things you don't understand, and it again, the way I see it is the way people react. The less they understand about something, the more alien it is to them, to their worldview, the worse they will react. And but you don't know about trans, then don't build a wall and fearmonger. Why not talk to people and find out, is my view. You can learn, or you can go, oh my God, I don't understand this. It must be terrible. It must be wrong. And it's once you go down that path of like, I don't want to have to deal with this because I don't understand it, then you're on a dangerous slope towards excluding people, because you're just going, well, this doesn't fit in with my nice, comfortable worldview. So it must be the work of the fucking devil.
Yeah, and not only are you excluding other people, you're also consciously excluding yourself by choice. And that's just a stupid thing to do. Why would you exclude yourself from another person's experience, another person's reality?
Or exclude yourself from actually learning something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just learn something new.
Exactly. You don't have to agree, but you can learn, and then base your opinion on what you have learned. Exactly.
Yeah. I have, since joining, I have learned an awful lot about specifically the LGBTQIA plus community that I did not know much about, and that even possibly 15 years ago I might have joined in with the same old derision that other people were doing at the time, but I've made the conscious decision that no, this is real. No, the more I find out, the more I learn, the richer it makes my life. The more people I know, the wider my experience. Why would you narrow yourself off, and continue with the mistakes you've made in the past, and just go down that narrow pathway with your blinkers on and go, oh, I don't want to have to deal with this.
Satanism, everybody benefits.
Massive thanks to Matt and the rest of the band Hearse Pile Up for letting us use their song We're All Going to Hell as our intro. If you'd like to hear more from them, go search Hearse Pile Up on Bandcamp. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions for topics we should discuss on the podcast, please email us at gospod@gosatan.com. That's gospod@gosatan.com.